Welcome, this is the third video about the professions in the Dark Eye core rules. This is about the priest professions, and let me first tell you that this is only a selection of the priests you can play in the game. They included the most important, and I think they picked them pretty well. Of the priests you can play, there are way more professions. Also for the spellcasters, there are way more different spellcasters than there are in this core rules, and I expect there will be an additional book about magic, there will be an additional book about gods and priests, and I expect to be more professions and more descriptions about priests and magicians in these books. So here we have a selection of 6 priests from the 12 god pantheon. They are the most common gods, the most common worshipped gods, and the most important and also the most powerful. And the first one is the priest of Boron. And Boron is the god of sleep and death, and his priests are also, they have a bit of a darker touch on them, because they're also very silent. They have the rule to not talk too much and only talk when it's necessary, and they also wear these dark dresses, and so they are a bit darker. But in general, there are even regions where the Boron is one of the foremost gods and most important, and people are not so much afraid or intimidated by him. But in general, they are a bit more of the darker ones. They are of course a bit difficult to play as a player character, as they are not allowed to talk so much. But they are very effective, for example, when you have to deal with the undead, because as the god of the dead, they know rituals and liturgies to deal with undead. Next priest is a priest of Hesinde. Hesinde is a goddess of magic and goddess of knowledge and education and stuff like that. And they are not so uncommon. It's not so uncommon to find a priest of Hesinde out in the world, away from a temple or something. That's usually a problem with other priests, because you would work in the temple, or you would be have duties in the order or something like that. And because the Hesinde priests are always looking for knowledge, it's quite common for them to be out in the world and just to have a book with them, the Book of the Snake, but they write down everything they find, everything they learn, what they do every day, and to educate people. And it's not that uncommon that you are playing an adventure and you get in some knowledge from an old book of the serpent that was brought back to a temple. Also, it is not so uncommon that someone who is a priest of Hesinde is a spellcaster also. That's not quite possible for someone who is creating a character to have someone who is a priest and a spellcaster. It is just basically too expensive, because you have to buy everything with experience points, and you just don't have enough. But it's, for example, possible to start out as a spellcaster and then later become a priest or something like that. Priest of Hesinde. Next priest is priest of Peraine or Peraine. Peraine is the goddess of nature, of farmers, of crop, of cattle, of healing, of herbs, and it's just he's a typical healer character, and he is very common because a lot of people are farmers, so you will find Peraine priests everywhere. It's rather uncommon that they are adventuring, because they have their duties with the farmers to bless the crops, the cattle, and stuff like that, or to heal people. Maybe a traveling healer or something like that would work. The fourth priest is the priest of Fex. Fex is the god of merchants and the god of thieves, and shady character, the god of the night, also the god of the stars. These are quite different aspects. For adventuring, the god of the sea aspect is probably the most important. They can easily travel in disguise. They can hide who they really are, have an different identity, a cover identity, but most of the priests of Fex are actually more associated to the merchants. They, for example, are mediators. When merchants have a problem, they make sure that all the merchants keep their contracts and stuff like that. And the temples that are openly shown everywhere of Fex are those which the merchants visit to give money, to have for this aspect. There are also temples that are more hidden and are more about the aspect of the Seath, where the Seath go to worship Fex. And he's also, no matter what aspect you emphasize as a priest, if you're more like the thief kind or if you're more like the merchant, everything you do has to be like kind of a good deal. Even if you're a thief, you're looking you're not doing something without getting anything back. And when you're a thief, you are not so much someone who just is greedy and wants to have things. You also want to have a challenge when you're trying to steal something. You want to get rich, and you want to make Fex richer by giving money to him and whatever you stole, but you also want to have a challenge, and you want to show how clever you are and how clever a priest of Fex is, and that you can get around every obstacle and around every security measure that is in place with the help of your god and your wit. Next priest is probably one of the most important. It's the priest of Praios, the god of the sun, the god of law, the god of order. He is very important for the nobleman, because Praios is the one who says who is noble and who is common folk, and who is the one in charge, and that the noblemen have to reign and stuff like that. Also, they're often the natural enemy of the adventurer, because they are all about law and being honest and not being in the dark and doing things hidden and stuff like that, which you would often do in when you're an adventurer. But on the other hand, they are very good when it's about to go against magic, because Praios is also against magic. He knows how to ban demons. He knows his priests know how to fight against magic users or something like that. And they also have something that is not in here. For all the priests, they're also for all the churches of the different gods. They're not only the priests you can play, but you used to, in the 4th edition, you also could. They would have like a military arm of the church, like the Sun Legion for the Praios priests, which might also be priests, but also may not be priests, just fighters, profane fighters within the church. And those fighters can be very useful when you are fighting demons or something, when you know that you are up against such an opponent. The last described priest here is the priest of Rondra. Rondra is the goddess of storm and war and honor and fighting. And Rondra priest is obviously a good choice for an adventurer. You still have the problem how you justify that you are outside your temple and you're not within your order or something. But having a fighter at your side is usually very useful. On the other hand, it's very problematic to be a fighter as a Rondra priest, because you have to be always fight fair. And for example, you cannot fight with a better weapon than your opponent. If he has only a sword, you cannot take the two-handed sword if that is considered better. You will rather fight with nothing at all than instead of fighting someone who is worse equipped at you. And as a Rondra priest, depending on what arm you belong to within the church, you might have really huge problems with retreating in a moment or going into hiding to let someone pass by without seeing you, because you're always in the open, you're not backing off and stuff like that. This can make it very complicated to play Rondra priest. I think that's all the professions there are. As I already said, there are, in the 4th edition, there have been way more professions, especially the priest profession. There are the 12 god pantheon has 12 gods. We only have here 6 priests, and within every church of the 12 gods, there are different arms of the church. There are different orders you can play. They all have usually an order, a military arm of their church, and with the magic users, I expect in other material they going to publish, there will be more magic users. For example, there are also druids. There are Shelme, which are kids that were raised by kobolds. Oh, I don't know what should look up this. What's the word for kobold? Yeah, kobold, the word like goblins, sprites or something, like fairy creatures. They were raised by them, and there are, for example, for the northern tribes of the barbarians, there is a certain fighter kind called Durodun, and they are very close to, they have kind of like a soul animal, and they can transform into that animal or partly transform into that animal. For example, when you are a fighter of a bear, when your soul animal is a bear, you can transform your hands into pawns of a bear and fight with them, or your head into that of a wolf or something like that, and you might be able to become stronger and things like that. And there are also spellcasters who are dancers and who can dance, who have dance rituals. They just dance, which is entertaining, but with dancing they can cast certain spells to improve morals, to strengthen people or something like that. And there are a lot of different, or there were a lot of different spellcaster types in the 4th edition, and I expect to come for a lot of them to come back in material that is going to be released in the future. For example, there will be a special book about God and priests, and there will be a special book about magic, and I expect to be more professions, more spells and stuff in there, like it has been before. But that's it for the chapter about the professions. Next will be advantages and disadvantages. There's a huge list of special things abilities you can have for your character. I'm not going to talk about each of them, I think, but we will flip through all the pages and then give a few examples. If you have questions about the professions, please feel free to comment, send me a message. If you think I explained something wrong, then send me a message. I'll try to correct it. Else, that's it for now. And next video will be about the advantages and disadvantages.